Hey y'all, it's Pam with 44 Marketplace and Creative Finishes by Pam, and today what we're going to talk about is furniture prep. I get asked this question a lot, and I really like helping people understand this a little better. I'm going to sneak over here so you guys can see more of what I'm doing, and I'm going to turn you down a little bit so you can see. All right. So, a lot of times people want a specific finish. And because they want a specific finish, they will bring me furniture and they want me to do something to it that in some cases really is going to cost them more than the furniture's worth. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about if you have a finish like this. I'm going to lift you guys up so you can see what we're starting with because I want you to see. Okay, can you guys see all of the texture in this piece? Can you see that it's been manufactured to be this way? All right, that's what we're going to start talking about right now because you guys need to understand this. If you're starting out with a piece like this and you want a super smooth finish, you want it pristine, that's all fine and good, but it's going to take a whole lot of work. And sometimes, sorry, got to adjust my camera just a little bit so you can see more of what we're doing. There we go, that's better. Sorry, I'm by myself today. But a lot of times people want this to be super smooth. And this is made in Indonesia. It's a soft wood. It's real easy to work with, but understand that if you're going to work on this, you've got to think about everything that it's going to take to accomplish what you want. The customer that brought me this, I explained to him, first of all, the drawer wouldn't open. And I took my sander, my SurfPrep sander, and I went around the edges. So that's one thing that I'll tell you. If your drawers are already pretty snug, if you put a 1/16 of an inch of paint on them, then you are going to have a tight-fitting drawer after everything's said and done. So please keep that in mind. If you already have snug-fitting drawers, if you put a 1/16 of paint on there, you're a 1/16 of an inch of paint, it's going to be snug. If you've got a sander or a planer, go around that and make sure that it's going to open and close before you put your paint on there. Mine, you can see it opens and closes nicely. And another thing is, a lot of times after I put my paint on, you can use Big Mama's butter, even though they don't recommend that as a top coat, but you can also just put regular old wax on there, and it's great. It'll keep it from sticking. So I haven't put any paint on this, but I did want to tell you, this one has some pock marks in the top and some texture. Now that there's a few more of you on here, I want to show you what I'm talking about so you guys can understand. I'm going to put you up close and personal with this piece of furniture so you guys can see right in here, there's kind of a deep mark. And if you look at all of the texture that's been created in this piece, it's got lots and lots of texture right there. And now the homeowner has decided that while they love the size of this piece, they don't want all this texture. So, if you're watching and you've got somebody that's got a question about getting a piece ready to paint, be sure and share this with them. And I am going to show you what we're going to do. The thing is, this was created, so there's a lot of texture that's been created. So I would not recommend, and I did not recommend to my customer, that we sand this completely down to give them a smooth finish. When we first began talking, they wanted a smooth black finish on this, but this piece of furniture, the time that it would take me to sand it all down and everything would cost them more than this piece of furniture is actually worth. And that's the other thing you got to keep in mind when you're working with furniture. You've got to guide your customers because sometimes they don't know and sometimes you don't know when you start working on a piece. This one, to get everything sanded down, nice and smooth, fill in all of these pock marks, would cost more than this piece of furniture is actually worth. But because this piece of furniture has all of this great texture, bumps and bruises, they don't want the greens and the golds and the flowers anymore. But what we can do is we can even out some of this texture, and we are going to put a vintage duck egg color on here, and we may put a drop cloth wash over the top of it, but then we're going to go back and take a dark wax, and we're going to use that dark wax to highlight some of these beautiful textures because the rest of their home has a rustic feel. We live on Lake Oconee, and a lot of the homes here have that rustic kind of feel. But today I'm going to show you if you have a sander that is a variable speed, my SurfPrep sander is a variable speed, it really helps when you're trying to even out something like this. Because not only do I use it to smooth off my finishes after they're painted, I like to use it to even this out. And like I say, these big pock marks, we're not addressing those because those are beautiful. They are fantastic. They give personality to this piece. But I think they don't want most of the flowers and everything. And you can't see from your vantage point, but if you look, you can see where all of these flowers were painted on here and they're raised slightly. So if you don't do something to even out this texture, when you put your next coat of paint on there, if it has a lot of texture, all of that is going to show out. So I don't want that to show. So what we're going to do is we are going to take 80 or 100 grit on our SurfPrep sander. We're going to have it at a little bit higher speed, and we're going to get rid of some of this texture. But now, if you're not used to using it, you can turn your SurfPrep down just a little bit. If you use it too high, too fast, if you put any pressure on it, if you put too much pressure on it, you can swirl it, which gives you a whole nother texture that you don't want, I'm telling you. But this, it's going to be a little bit of noise for a minute, but I want to show you what a difference it makes, because mainly what we're trying to do is get rid of all the florals on the top and to help even out some of this texture that was created when they made this piece of furniture in Indonesia. All right, loud noise. Part of that noise is the vacuum that I've got hooked up to my sander, but I want you guys to see, so I'm going to lift you guys up a little bit. Let me see if I can get you any. Can you guys see a little bit better what I'm doing? All right, that is with an 80 grit, and I'm going to show you with a 100 grit to see what it is, okay? All right, you can see it attaches. There's my holes, and I'm going to show you. So loud noise. You guys up so you can see what it looks like. All right, you can see that I have gotten rid of the florals. There's no texture left on the florals that were here. So you can see what I'm saying when I'm talking about how long it would take you to get all of the texture off of this piece. Even with a great sander like I have, because I do have the SurfPrep sander, it is amazing what this sander will do. But that's what I like to teach people is this piece, to me, would not be a candidate for a smooth finish if they're paying somebody. Now, if it's your piece and there's a personal connection with it, I can understand you wanting to put the work into it to get it nice and smooth and do your smooth finish. But to me, the way this one is, it's going to be so great with their decor once we do our vintage duck egg with our possible drop cloth wash. And I don't know if you guys know what that means, but Dixie Belle doesn't require sanding. But sometimes your surface needs to be prepped. That's why we are sanding today. But this piece, we are going to put vintage duck egg, which is a beautiful blue-green color. But their house doesn't have very much color in it, so we may take drop cloth and do a light wash over it to soften the color even more, if that's what they decide they want to do. But then we're going to take the dark wax and we're going to put over it. So this piece is going to get sanded the rest of this afternoon, get all of this taken back a little bit, get rid of all the texture that we've got on the top and a little bit of the texture on the bottom. And you can see we've already gotten the drawer ready to open and close. But once we get all of this done, then we are going to put vintage duck egg on it, and the customers are supposed to be back mid-month, and they're going to take this to their house and look at it for a couple of days. That's another thing. When you're working on a piece of furniture, if you're not sure about the color or the texture, stop what you're doing and let it sit in its spot for a couple of days and see how it looks in the morning sun, in the afternoon sun, in the evening sun, that kind of thing, and make sure that you're happy with those colors. Typically, when I'm doing custom pieces, if a customer isn't sure, I like to send it home with them and let them think about it for a couple days, and then we go back and we do whatever else they want done. So this piece is going to be painted vintage duck egg tomorrow, and then it will be set aside till mid-month, till my customers can come and get it and take it and look at it. But they do understand that we are going to have to love some of the texture on this piece, and that's what I wanted to make clear to you guys. This piece has a lot of texture. So if your piece has a lot of texture to begin with, just know that you're really going to have to put a lot of effort into it to make it nice and smooth. Whereas if you opt to go with a different finish and embrace the fact that your piece has texture, it's much easier to embrace it. And actually, we're going to accentuate some of the texture. After we paint it vintage duck egg, we are going to go back in with some dark wax and highlight some of the texture that's left on here. Because once we get rid of the texture from the flowers, the rest of the texture is not a problem. It's the texture from the design that will show through if we don't smooth that down a little bit. So if you guys have questions, I'm Pam with 44 Marketplace and Creative Finishes by Pam. I'm always available on social media or on text message. But if you're watching this in replay, be sure and give me a shout out. And if you have questions about any of it, please let me know. And again, like I say, my SurfPrep sander is, I use it all the time, especially on a job like this. And I've got a couple of other things. So you guys are going to get to see a lot of work this month. I've got a lot to get done in January, and I'm going to be live on the 44 Marketplace page. If you get a chance, tune in. See you later.